So you have a degree in neuroscience. What are your thoughts on Elon Musk's Neuralink?
I have been looking at it from afar, but I haven't done a lot of the paper reading and stuff as I would like to. I think implantable devices in the brain have actually been around before that.
Yeah.
So you have deep brain stimulators in Parkinson's disease. So it's an amazing treatment. Honestly, when I went to they do them at Queen's Square at UCL. I remember that placement on the ward really distinctively. I've never seen, they have a ward of all the patients who have just had a DBS implanted into them.
Yeah.
And I've never seen more tears of joy after a procedure. Like these individuals, Parkinson's is a very debilitating, lifelong condition.
Yeah.
You're trembling, it really impedes you, and it becomes worse and worse, which I hear from patients is one of the most devastating parts, right? These deep brain stimulators, which they've managed to engineer, that sit in your brain and basically pulse frequencies to override the pathways that are going wrong, almost reduce the symptoms to none, and you can really live a fairly good life for a long period of time. So I think some of the critique on this is very weird, implant, it's happening. It's already and to great success for a lot of individuals. What I saw the little video of the patient moving their cursor around, and it was the joy in their face was similar to what I saw on the wards and stuff. I can't comment on whether it's safe and whether Mr. Musk is following all of the right protocols and FDA legislation, but I think we shouldn't be so resistant to it just because Elon Musk does some mainstream radical ideas sometimes. There's a lot of great neurologists that have thought about this for a long time, and I think it's not something we should just shun because Elon's doing it.
Sure. Would you get one?
Would I get one? If I needed one, maybe. Yeah, I think.
What about if it wasn't a case of you needing one because you had some kind of disability, but it was a case of it would give you an advantage? If you could just think, I appreciate it's not at this point yet, but when it's version 7 or 8, then you can think and then get the answer from Google, or you can completely control all of your devices from your Alexa to your Xbox, to your phone, just by thinking, as opposed to somebody else who has to use a keyboard and a mouse, and then you'd be more competitive in the workforce and you'd have more access to information. You'd be like a human AI at that point. Yeah. So less of a case of you needing one, more of a case of you having an advantage over people that don't have one, evolution. Would you get one at that point?
I think every medical procedure is just and this is maybe the boring answer, it's just risk balance. It's just what are you willing to risk versus the benefit to you, and that's every patient's decision. I was having a very similar conversation about Ozempic, which is obviously very popular at the moment, and it was licensed for people with diabetes, and then it's licensed for people who are obese, and now you have people tending to use it who potentially don't need it. Yeah. And it's okay, you can lose a lot of weight, but what is the risk gain to you? Yeah. And it's hard to know. Yeah,
we don't know yet. There's no long-term studies on any of this stuff because it's all brand new.
Yeah, so I think where is it healthcare when you're not really caring for your health anymore? You're just enhancing your health. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
It's more cyberpunk that reality. It's an enhancement rather than a fix.
Yeah, I don't think, it'd probably just be too expensive for me. Sure. But I wouldn't be afraid of the procedure, I don't think. Neurosurgeons are it's the bloody hardest training in the NHS, right? These people know what they're doing. Yeah. I think it's just always risk benefit, depends on your needs. But I think for people who have spinal injuries, people with Parkinson's, that stuff is game changing. It
will start out really expensive, obviously, like any technology, but then hopefully it will, like everything, come down in price. The challenge with the Neuralink type devices, will the people that have it have such an advantage that they'll get such a head start over everybody else that can't afford it, where the rich kind of become this superhero type class of people? Who knows, but it'll be interesting. One other kind of cutting edge form of technology is augmented reality. You have AR within your app with the balloon test. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on AR, VR, the metaverse, I guess the future of tech in that world?
Okay. Two very contrasting thoughts. Yeah. One is, so the positive one is I think VR will if used in the right way, can be like amazingly diagnostic for a lot of things. So we do that in Mindstep by placing like things around an individual and looking at how they map and scan the room, and it's quite useful at basically detecting certain signs.
That's AR.
AR, and I think VR actually could probably do it even better, right? You could get like, you could look at their gait, how they walk, certain neurological signs that have always been really hard to detect, or you need to do it in person, etc. So I think there's huge capacity on that front. I think there's huge capacity, and I'm sure, and I know of groups that are working on this in surgery. So just like ensuring plastics is more effective in terms of the incisions and marking, and God, like it's going to be like really empowering for surgery, I think. I think the slightly side that I'm maybe more concerned on is maybe the mental health side, especially around like metaverse. So we know like ADHD is increasing drastically. There's some studies now coming out about how children who have utilized iPads a lot during adolescence are struggling in school. People have anecdotal evidence, but now the studies are actually coming out around that as well. I feel like it can't be good, just not just like science aside, it just can't be good disconnecting yourself from reality for a child to be so overstimulated. And
the closeness, like having an iPad is one thing, but having, like we were told as kids, don't sit too close in front of the TV. Now the TV is here.
Yeah. I don't know if, have you tried the VR?
Yeah, I've tried everything. I was an OG with the Google Cardboard, then I had all of the Meta Quests, and just need the Vision Pro, and then I'm full metaverse. But yeah. I mean, I love it as a concept, but I do agree with you. There are so many potential downfalls when it comes to isolation and you know, and mental health challenges it could bring. There's also a lot of pros, but it's such a new territory, isn't it?
Yeah, I think for like actual healthcare, I think it can be game changing. I just think as like a recreational tool, I think for kids it's like iPads, or like not iPads. I sound like such a boomer when I say these kids, but you know, just like VR could be it could contribute to the attention sort of deficit that we see at the moment.
Yeah, it probably will. Yeah. Let me ask you about AI, kind of like the trifecta of cutting edge technologies right there.
Yeah, we're going through them.
Yes, you use AI in your app to help analyze the data and provide insights and recommendations and everything. So what are your thoughts on the future of artificial intelligence? So maybe within healthcare, I think this has to be done like really, I think there's a danger of like what always kind of happens with like a new technology is, at least within healthcare, we start wedging it everywhere. We start wedging it in places where it doesn't really belong, and it's not even that helpful, right? And people just have these hypotheses that, you know, generating a, you know, summary for this patient using an LLM is what the radiologist wants. When you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Yeah, exactly. I think that's a real concern at the moment, and maybe it's the natural process of how like innovation works. Like you kind of hammer everything, some things are going to stick, and those things that stick are probably going to be the effective ones. It feels like everything is being hammered at the moment possible within like the whole patient journey. I think that there is like a concern around, so like obviously data is the fuel of AI, right? And we're all, at least the big models are all using the same data and generating out the same data, and it's sort of converged. I don't know if you saw this study, which was basically, PubMed is, you know, where people publish papers. The word, I think it was the word delve, they did a graph of it, how many times it appears in publication titles. And then just like normal. And then in the last year and a half, it's like 4x'd. Because everyone's using ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is learning off new PubMed papers, and it's just perpetuating. So you just have everyone delving into stuff, which loses the originality of medicine. So I think ChatGPT's already been called out on this and like certain aspects. Another issue with AI is that it's really good at the stuff where it has data on, but where it doesn't have data, it's completely useless. I don't know if you saw, I saw it on Twitter where basically, you know, there's like this, you have two people, one of them saying the truth, one of them saying a lie. How do you figure out who's telling the lie, basically? It's kind of like a riddle. And it's quite well known. Sure.
But someone just gave it the problem. You have two people telling the truth. How do you know who's telling the truth? Which is obviously a very simple problem. But because ChatGPT doesn't have that data set, and it has the data set of the other thing, it came up with this mad convoluted thing that wasn't really applicable. So I think AI, in summary, machine learning, I think, will be really useful in automating certain pathways. I think the NHS has a great deal of catching up to do in terms of digitalised, but there are some really, really clever people now in the NHS working on it. So it could get there. But I also think, the real value will not be in the models, but it will be on the data and to address those two problems that I kind of highlighted, like the convergence and sort of the blind spots.
Sure. Do you think it will ever become self-aware, sentient? Nice, easy question for you.
I think I maybe have a controversial opinion on this. I think no. I know a lot more about neuroscience than I do about machine learning.
Sure.
So our brains work in very different ways to machine learning algorithms, at least from my understanding.
Yeah.
A lot of them are basically brute force calculations that are going on. And so it's basically doing like many decision trees, and it's trying to predict using like models what the next step is based off prior data. Our brains don't work like that. We don't have enough battery, juice, GPU, whatever you want to call it, in our heads. So our brains use much more nuanced, and some systems we don't even understand yet quite fully, to like have a consciousness, retrieve old memories, pull together complex movements. The way the systems in our brain interact with each other is completely different. So like sentience is quite a complex, process that I think, although on the surface AI at the moment can carry out similar things and better things than humans do, the underlying mechanics are still quite different. There are people with like computational neuroscience degrees who are very, very smart, and like DeepMind are one of the groups that are going to probably bring the two together and borrow from neuroscience about how to build better models. But I don't think we're very close yet, and I still think the brain is like mad different. But that's maybe because I don't know enough about machine learning, and maybe it is there yet.
I know nothing about it, so I'm.
So you demo it?
No, I'm asking as a curious layperson. But I mean, the question really is, if you give a GPU and a computer enough power, can it replicate consciousness? Is consciousness uniquely biological? And I don't know the answer to
that's like a deep philosophy question. Can it replicate consciousness? I mean, like, if it's turned on, right? If it's turned on, maybe it's conscious.
But we'll never really truly know.
Yeah, does it have to feel things?
Probably not. I don't know if it'll feel emotion, but...
Yeah, I just think there is a huge difference. Like, I think there was a cool study on like how Face ID worked. So how it works, it uses like the network and it tracks images. Your brain also has like a region very specific just to recognizing people's faces, and that works very differently to the models at Face ID. It's just an example about how the process on the outside looks the same, but underneath the neurons, the neural networks on both sides, something very different is going on.